vote on this one.
I'm going to start recording now, guys. So everything you say from here on in is yeah,
immortalized.
We'll give it a couple of more minutes and we'll start just after 1 o'clock.
Actually, we're doing well for an Irish audience. 13 people on 2 minutes before the time. We're project managers. What do you expect?
You'd like to think so, all right, Jackie, wouldn't you?
We're not all Irish there, Jackie. Come on now.
I know, yeah.
No, as I said, Jackie, I think very shortly after 1 o'clock you're going to get a surge. So, like I said, if you can just keep an eye
I'll do that. Yeah,
on,
no problem.
just admitting people, just in that first 10 minutes of a wave, I think. Just share my screen there. Can people see my screen?
Yeah.
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 You might want to put it in slideshow, maybe. Make it a bit bigger.
Here we go. You can see it now.
Okay, I think we'll kick off. It's just gone 1 o'clock now. I think there's going to probably be a bit of a surge over the next 10 minutes in terms of people coming on. So, but we'll roll it as is. First of all, just want to welcome everyone to this Ireland chapter of PMI webinar on International Project Management Day. So happy IPM. The title of this webinar is Evolve, Embrace and Empower. I suppose just to bring everybody through what's going to happen over the next hour, we're going to go through the agenda and the introductions for the first 10 minutes or so. The main part of the discussion is the panelist forum, which I think we'll probably donate about 30 minutes to that. So on the topic of Evolve, Empower, Embrace, we'll have a questions and answer session from the audience, which will probably be for about 10 minutes. Now, normally how we do that is we ask you to post your questions into the chat. And what we'll do is we'll just take a handful of those questions as part of the Q&A session. So if you can, as we're going through the presentation, you want to explore something a little bit more or have a question for the panelist group, just put that question into the chat and we'll try and get that brought up towards the end of the session. And then we'll just do a wrap up and close out session for about 5 minutes at the end, and we can just summarize the session. Just to note, the PDU code for today's session is listed at the bottom of the page there. the PDU code will be automatically assigned to people. It doesn't happen straight away after the session, so you'll need to give it probably about a week. But as I said, that reference is there just in case you need it. I want to just call out our event sponsor for today's webinar, which is Org Advisory. We have several people from the Org Advisory group on this call today. Denise Gormley was obviously in consultation with us before this session. So thanks to Denise for part of the sponsorship. And Darren Ling is one of the panelist presenters here today. So again, thanks to Darren for his contribution and support of this session. So Org is a professional services company that makes transformational change happen. Obviously, they're involved in a number of different services, so advisory services, resourcing services, and delivery services. So again, thanks to Org for their contribution to this webinar. Just as a, I suppose, a mention before we get into this webinar, just on some upcoming events that are organised by the Ireland chapter of PMI. So we have the National Awards event, which is occurring on next week, Thursday, the 9th of November in the PwC offices. So a number of significant awards will be presented and they're listed there. So we're looking forward to that annual event. On the 16th of November, we have a webinar session, which is on collaboration science and how that will help PMs to navigate project closure. So to register for that event, you can go onto our PMI website and you can use the link that's shown there to register for that one. Similarly, we have another large event on the 23rd of November, which is our annual general meeting of the Ireland chapter of PMI. Again, obviously we're looking forward to that, and we're expecting a large participation from our membership across the country. So again, you can register for that event with the link that's shown there. We have some other events that are occurring in November. November is a busy month. So right at the back end of November, we also have some agile events. And again, if you go onto the PMI Ireland website, you'll be able to get details of that and register accordingly. Just in terms of our panelists today, so I just want to introduce the panelists at this point. So we have 4 panelists. So the first panelist is Jackie Fagan. Jackie has 30 years of experience in project and program management.
You can tell by the photo.
Exactly. Vendor management, change management, and I suppose running PMOs, so across a wide variety of sectors, such as finance, telco, food, pharma, etc. I suppose in the last number of years, Jackie has moved into more of a consultancy space and is working in that area at the moment. And I suppose we're privileged to have Jackie as the current president of the Ireland chapter. And Jackie's doing a great job in that and coming towards the end of her tenure in that, but obviously will stay with us beyond her role as PMI president. So welcome, Jackie.
Thanks a million. Thank you.
Just want to introduce our second panelist, which is Pat Lucy. Pat is a distinguished panelist, a finalist in the 2020 Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year. So Pat is a successful entrepreneur who has built an international PM consultancy company, Aspira, of which he was the lead CEO from 2007 to 2022. So a lot of significant leadership experience that Pat is bringing to the table here. Pat is also a member of the PMI Global Board of Directors for the upcoming year 2024, the first time that an Irish person has been on that board. So welcome, Pat, to this forum.
Thanks very much, Anthony. Delighted to be with you on International Project Management Day.
There you go. Our third panelist, as I mentioned, as one of the sponsors, Darren Ling, is the Global Managing Director for Org Advisory, which are involved in, I suppose, supporting companies and executives with complex business and IT transformation changes. So Darren has held a number of senior leadership positions with companies such as Johnson Matthey, Say Mowden, and HS2 across banking industries, distribution, chemical industry. So a lot of diverse experience from Darren. And again, Darren, we welcome you to the forum.
Thank you. As an Irish company, we're privileged to be here on celebrating PMI and Project Management Day.
Thanks, Darren. And then last but not least, we have Barry Doyle, who is from KSN Project Management. Barry is a director at KSN, leading a construction project management consultancy company. Barry, I suppose, is involved, focused on strategic sustainable solutions. He's an architect by trade and has his graduate and project diploma, project management. And I suppose Barry has a diverse number of years of experience in construction projects across commercial, residential, retail, healthcare, and the educational sectors. So very much clued into the overall construction industry. So welcome again, Barry.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Thank you for the invite to the session today. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, so I suppose coming back to the objective of the webinar. The theme for International Project Management Day this year is Evolve, Empower, Embrace. So I think when we looked at this theme and we reflected on the 25 years since the inception of the Chapter of Ireland PMI Group, we just, I suppose, tried to think about how has change evolved and how has project management evolved over the lifetime of the Chapter of Ireland PMI. And I suppose looking forward into the future, how do we embrace and empower, how do we embrace change and how do we empower our PMs to, I suppose, manage that change and to manage the evolution and the ongoing change that we see from a project management point of view. So, we think about technologies that have emerged, that have influenced PM data availability, decision-making, and speed. We recognize globalization, which has changed project parameters of the scale of projects and resourcing of projects and external risks. We think of the way that Agile has changed, has been introduced over the last 25 years, but has also evolved and I suppose is combined with traditional waterfall into kind of hybrid models. So you don't have one fit for all projects. So they're just examples of, I suppose, the evolution of project management. So with that in mind, I suppose that will be, part of the discussion for the panelist group, the expert panelist group that's here. And I've just listed down the questions, and I suppose the panelists will give their perspectives within their industries, their specific industries and broader industries on their experiences and their overall observations. So I think just to lead it out, Pat, I might get you to lead out the first question there. So how has project management in Ireland and beyond evolved across various industry sectors in the past decade? We take that smaller section of the last decade. So give me your perspective, Pat, on how you've seen that evolution.
Sure, Anthony. Thank you. I guess in keeping with those of you who are studying for the PMP, I'll give 3 points: one on people, one on process, and one on the business environment. So on the process side, you mentioned Agile. So 10 years ago, Agile was just about to enter its teenage years. It was almost 13 years old. It'll be 23 years old next February. And I think it had a troubled teen phase where every conference I went to, every session I went to, there was a debate. Agile is fantastic. Waterfall is useless. Never do waterfall. And it was the rebellious team trying to establish itself, I think. At this point, I'm glad to say we've gone past that stage. Agile indeed has been established. It's been incorporated fully into the latest version of the PMBOK. It's half of the exam is now based on Agile. And I don't think there are any more debates anymore about whether somebody should be all Agile or all predictive waterfall. It's horses for courses. And, you know, often I find most organizations are using a hybrid. Back 10 years ago, it was software people using Agile. Now, you know, almost everybody is using elements of it, whether you're in the pharmaceutical space or banking or whatever. So that's one big change since 10 years ago on the process side. On the people side, we have lived through a pandemic. And I can tell you 4 years ago, if one of my project managers came to me and said, Pat, I want to work from home, is that okay? My answer was no, because I believed a project manager had to be there, shaking hands, patting backs, kicking asses, you name it, whatever it took to deal with stakeholders and project team to get it done. And I'm very happy to say I was completely wrong. So thankfully, project managers were able to do a great job and keep projects on the road through the pandemic, navigate all kinds of challenges we hadn't dreamed about. And I think a byproduct of the pandemic is that organizations in general are much more project focused now. They've seen what can be achieved by taking a project-based approach to delivery. Companies got so much done so quickly, you know, that they would have talked about for 5 years. They got it done in 5 weeks, driven by the urgency of the pandemic, but also because they could see how project teams can deliver. And the last one, the business environment. Again, thankfully, we tend to forget the painful episodes of the past, but 10 years ago, Ireland had 15.5% unemployment. We were at the peak of our unemployment. At many of our events, I would meet fellow project managers looking for work, right? We didn't have enough work to keep everybody going. It was a tough time. This year, unemployment has dropped below 4%. Earlier the year. Now we all know our big problem is trying to get people, right? Can we find the people? The PMI's latest research says that worldwide we will need an extra 2.3 million project professionals every year from now to 2030. So if you're trying to pick a good growth area to encourage your kids to get into, project management is it. And one of the side effects of that is we've had to be much more dependent on people coming into our country. We have far more diversity and we have to be more sensitive to that, working well with people from all parts of the world, all age groups. And the importance of inclusivity and diversity, I think, is more important now than ever. So that's my 3 quick things that I think, on reflection, have changed quite a bit over the last 10 years.
Thanks, Pat. Some great insights there. I loved in particular that mindset changed in terms of COVID-19, not working from home, and then seeing the success of projects getting completed in that remote situation. So I think we can all relate to that. Barry, maybe if we just want to pick up on that from the construction industry, can you give us your perspectives?
Certainly. Thanks, Anthony. Pat mentioned the project-based approach, and you know, from a client-side construction project management end of things, I think the evolution of project management in this industry has been extraordinary. Going back further than a decade, I mean, when I started working 25 years ago, there were no project managers working on projects. It was very, very rare. And we've evolved to the point now where I know of very few projects where there is not a project management team working on them, and that's extraordinary. And particularly in the last 10 or 15 years, that has grown exponentially, and it's great to see. And the value of the project-based approach and the value of a project manager working on a construction project is there for everybody to see. I mean, our clients keep coming back to us. The value is evidently there, and long may it continue. In terms of how the industry has developed, I definitely think in the last 10 years particularly, and the rate of this change is increasing. Our traditional tools You know, we all started by taking minutes and you know, the traditional forms of tracking deliverables and ensuring things were delivered on time and reporting on them. And we're now seeing those evolve a lot more quickly into SQL databases and the use of trackers and Power BI and so forth. And I see that sophistication increasing. I think we're not quite there yet. I think there's probably a long road to go, but we're definitely on the journey in terms of the construction industry and the client side, in terms of the tools we use to deliver the project management service.
Thanks, Barry. Again, really interesting to hear that kind of change in mentality of, you know, I suppose the rarity of project managers going back 20 odd years ago in the construction industry to where it is now. So it's just fascinating to see that change and compare it to other sectors, for example. Darren, maybe if you can just give a further perspective on that. Obviously, as I said, you're coming from another background in terms of distribution, banking, chemicals, etc. So give me your own perspective on that.
Yeah, I think I'd just like to say I think the guys are both spot on. I think I kind of look at this from the other angle about, you know, what does business need from project management? That's kind of the thing that, you know, I study quite a lot. And I think when businesses probably look at our profession, I think we're about to enter the third phase of project management. So I think both Barry and Pat really talked about, you know, where we started off was very much methodology, process, standards, put some structure around the chaos to help us deliver what we need to deliver. I don't think Barry touched on it a little bit. We entered phase 2 of the need for project management within business, which is actually, it wasn't about process and standards. It was about data insights to make informed decisions. And to Barry's point, you know, we're getting far better at that as we start to systemize a lot of that. And I think we're about to enter a really exciting phase for us as professionals, which is phase 3, which I think is as process, technology, and humans start to homogenize even further with the introduction of AI and things of that nature. We're moving towards an outcome world, actually, and what we do in phase 3 becomes really important. So, as an example, if CRM is the answer, our job becomes now asking businesses, well, what's the question? And for us, we're going to start to move away from just doing things for the sake of things and actually starting to really be a true business partner, asking those questions around what are the outcomes you're looking to achieve. And I think that's really important as tech becomes more and more prevalent in our daily lives. So that's kind of, as I say, I'm excited for phase 3 and to see where it takes us.
Great, thanks for that, Darren. Okay, so I think we've talked about, you know, how industry and PM has evolved. I think we want to maybe, you know, kind of maybe take up what Darren has just said there in terms of where project management is going forward into the future. And I think question 2 and question 3 that I've listed on the screen I'm just sharing is probably looking at that forward thinking. So how can project managers embrace the changing world and still be relevant and successful? But intrinsically linked to that is empowerment. Embracing and empowering are very much intrinsically linked. So how can PMs be empowered to successfully meet that change? Jackie, maybe that's something that you want to just give a perspective on, please.
Yeah, I just pick up on something that Darren said. I like the idea about the fact that we're going into the third phase. There's a concept out there in life that you talk about, you go into your third act. The first act is when, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this, the first act is when you're doing all your training and you're grown up. The second act is when you're living and you're working. And then the third act is when you come to what would be the retirement age, and then you reinvent yourself. So it's a bit like that for project management. I like the idea of and also the fact that you talk about outcomes with your clients, which totally fits into the way PMI itself as an organization. When PM Box 7 came out, it totally is all outcome based. It's all about the end result, the benefits realization, all that. So I just wanted to echo that. I like the idea of the third phase, third act. But in terms of embracing then, so we know where we've come from the evolving, and from the embracing thing, we need to keep ourselves relevant and we need to keep ourselves up to date. So continuous learning is non-stop. So we should be embracing the industry trends, the new technologies, attending workshops, seminars, keep learning, keep gaining new skills and knowledge. Technology, I know Barry mentioned about AI and the data analytics and Power BI and all that. And we have no idea what that's going to do for the future. But the one thing I can do, I can guarantee you, if we're sitting here in 2 or 3 years' time having the same webinar, the jobs we do today as project managers will be totally different. So it will be all centric around the stakeholder management, the outcomes, looking to ask those questions as strategic up at the C-suite level when you're actually involved in the beginning of the projects. What are they looking for out of it? And then getting all the technology, AI, and whatever else is there to do all what I use the phrase called the donkey work, all that admin stuff that takes up so much time of the project manager. So embrace that, don't be afraid of it, and continuously learn about it, because the more we the more knowledge we have, we actually empower ourselves to take control of our own destiny. So if we are knowledgeable about AI and everything else there that will help us, we could then focus what makes the differentiation for the human being, human-centric, which is the management of that stakeholder. The other thing I would say around embracing is to be flexible and to look for the opportunities. Yes, we've learned all about risk management, but also look at probably the opportunities. So when you do your SWOT analysis, typically in project management, we look at the risks and what could go wrong. And absolutely, yes, we should still do that. But let's also look at the opportunities. We have all this coming in around sustainability and everything else. Let's challenge ourselves. So let's get ourselves more informed with the continuous learning and the flexibility. And once you do that, then you actually are making a conscious decision as a project manager to empower yourself to take control of your own destiny. So you can go there and actually the world is your oyster, but you will only be relevant and successful if you keep up that continuous learning. So that's my tuppence worth.
Super. Thanks, Jackie. I think the key message you've just mentioned there is keep learning.
Yeah.
We keep hearing in many different forums about the impact that AI is having and will continue to have, and as it shapes, I suppose, the world, but obviously all of the businesses, society, and roles that will feed into it and will be impacted by it. So thanks for that insight, Jackie. So maybe if you could give us your insight on that one as well, please, Barry.
Yeah, Jackie used the word reinvention there, and actually that's a great word, I think. I mean, the industry at the moment, certainly the side of the project management industry that we're in, is nothing like it was when I trained to be an architect and started working. And more than likely in 20 years or even less, 10 years, it won't be anything like it is now. And I think the use of that word reinvention is very interesting. The buildings and the built environment that we are working on as project managers at the moment is changing and evolving all the time. When I trained as an architect, you designed your building, you went to tender, you built your building, and then you walked away. And somebody else stepped in and operated the buildings. The industry has now moved into, and we're at very early stages of a fully considered journey, but we have moved into a space where we think of buildings based on their life cycle. It's cradle to cradle. And we have to think about how we deconstruct the building and recycle materials when the building has been finished. And how do we operate the building, and how much carbon is used in the operation of the building, and how do we collate data to be monitoring it all the time. And all of that needs to get back into writing a brief and a business case for the building. So we think about the building and the built environment very differently. And we have to educate ourselves and embrace all of the changes and adjust our businesses to how we collect data and collate data and manage data and make use of the data throughout that whole process. So instead of a job that might have been 3-4 years when I started as an architect, the role is potentially 30, 40, 50, 60 years if you stay involved in it all the way across it. And I think we have to be able to embrace that flexibility and change. In terms of empowerment, certainly from our business's perspective, we encourage our management level. We have subgroups within the organization, teams of associate and associate directors, and those subgroups focus on certain aspects of the industry, be it IT, be it the future of software, be it how we procure buildings, modern methods of construction, and they're empowered to reach out and to educate themselves, to educate us, to show leadership, to share knowledge, and challenge our current business thinking so we can build it into business strategy moving forward. So for us, it's about embracing where we're going in terms of the built environment and empowering all of our project managers to continue to reinvent themselves, if you like, and their knowledge so that they're up to speed on the industry at all times.
Thanks, Barry. Love that emphasis of the word reinvention, and again, very interesting to hear that kind of cradle to grave life cycle management of building, going from, as you said, 3-4 years to now considering like 35-40 years. So really fascinated to hear that perspective. Darren, maybe if you can pick up on this same point, embracing it and empowerment.
Yeah, I think one of our core strap lines we always say to clients is, the solution to every challenge starts with human conversation. And I think this really ties into what Pat was talking about earlier. He's really worried before COVID, could we work remotely? Of course we could. Actually, our fundamental job and what we've always been very good at is bringing people together. And I think what we really need to embrace is complexity within our projects is increasing, and we can't look past that. Barry just gave a really good example of the complexity in the whole life of a construction project now. But we know in our daily lives, we've got humans clashing with technology, clashing with process. And before, I think we were very, very good as an industry of, we'd look at complexity and we could put it in a box very quickly, which was delivery complexity. So we could be a bit more process, better schematics, better documentation. It'll fix the problem. But actually, the complexity dial has shifted to management complexity. Actually, the complexity that we see now is in a disparate set of very, very political stakeholders having different views about how the three elements come together and work. And what that does is that drives the next level of complexity is, whereas before, I think Barry touched on it, we used to do something and forget about it. A lot of emergent business complexity is now coming from the projects that we're delivering because they're so complex. And our job is to decouple all of that for the organizations. This is what we need to embrace. We can't just be like, well, it's difficult and we filled the job and we give you some data. Our job now, and that's why I really like what Pat said, we can organize people better than anybody, and that's what we've got to really embrace moving forward. That political complexity and the emergent complexity coming out of the difficulty of the things that we're trying to deliver for the organization. Yeah. I'd be interested to get other people's views.
Yeah, breaking down that complexity. Pat, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so one thing that's just occurring to me there, Darren, from what you're saying is, despite all the advances that we've had in process and technology, the complexity is still there, and the amount of hours I work every week never seems to reduce. And I know I grew up in an era when to get a job was a privilege. If I had to work 60 or 80 hours a week to keep that job, I'd do it. That's changed. So my kids' generation, they have a different attitude towards work-life balance. And I wonder, what are your views in terms of our ability as a profession to get our hands around burnout, to stop or reduce the amount of extra hours people are putting in, because it's no longer seen as a badge of honor with the younger generation. They're correctly seeing it as a problem. Yeah. And it's not a problem. It's not a personal problem. It's a problem that we have to figure out how to solve through our systems and our workplace solutions. So interested in your views.
So can I jump in there, Pat, for a minute?
Please do, Jackie. Yeah, cool.
I was at a conference in Brussels there in October. And actually on that very subject, they had a lady there, her name escapes me, a neuroscientist, who talked about your self-care, etc. And that instead of just that communication, like the theme was around communication and leadership of the future, the gymnastic project manager. And the concept was that communication is not just the verbal communication, the body language that we all learned, but it's also whatever's going on in behind you in terms of your brain. And the concept that your brain isn't the left and the right hand side, it's like it's a hand with this, the three sides are all together. So that's all totally intertwined. And one of the things that was coming out that I think that we might see in the future is that this, what you saying, Pat, about the self-care, because it's, you're right to say the younger generation are not, they're looking for, you know, the best value add for whatever. Just as a joke, by the by comment, I have a 12-year-old nephew, and I had him, anyone that was at the 25th party would have heard this story. But one weekend I had taken time off work and the phone kept on ringing, and he said, I thought you weren't working. I said, it's not work, it's PMI. What's PMI? I said, oh, it's a voluntary thing I do. And he says, what does that mean? And he's only 12. And I told him what voluntary means. He says, but that phone hasn't stopped. Do you do that for nothing? And that's literally just, the concept of why you would do something for nothing was just lost. And you know something, some of that might be right. You know, we don't have to say that that's all wrong. Some of that might be right. And I think it's that dividing line between managing ourselves, take caring of ourselves, and doing a good job. That, I don't know, as a woman, you always thought you had to do 120% to be up in the man's world. But like, we should now look at what does it take to do the job, not be like a culture, I need to be here from 8 o'clock till 8 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. But I do think that in terms of for the future, I do think that all that neuroscience will come in big to play.
I'd agree with that, Jackie. I think I touched on something great about like what it was like when we probably all got jobs. And actually, sometimes I think for the younger generation, we have to ask, maybe it's us, not them. Have we, you know, maybe it's us that should be learning from them. You know, I mean,
yes,
changing jobs every 2 years. Why is it a bad thing? Actually, if you read a lot of the psychology stuff about motivation by someone like Dan Pink, Autonomy, Mastery, Purpose. Actually, our job is to set a purpose, over communicate that, and then, you know, give them which allows them to do autonomy and mastery. And I think that's the big bridging the gap for me, is about our generation has to get better at communicating. Because before, you know, the world, sorry, a very, very stereotypical thing to say, you know, it was, well, Janet really understands that and she's been here 20 years, and John really understands that and he's been here 10 years. That world's gone. If we continue to do that, organizations will just fall apart.
Yeah.
And actually, I think the new way of being is people changing jobs more regularly and coming in and out. And we have to communicate and give them purpose so we can replace personnel more easily. And I guess there's nobody better at doing that and leading the way than us. Because what do? We constantly look after temporary organizations.
Yeah.
So we should be the masters of it and leading that for the business.
Great conversation, guys. I'm going to just maybe hold that point there and just move on, just in the interest of time, but certainly great conversations. I'm just going to go to point 4 on the screen there, which is just, I suppose, the fact that we're in International Project Management Day and we're recognizing project managers and the role that they have. And I'm going to just maybe direct this one to yourself, Darren, just to continue on that conversation. So I know you have some strong beliefs on the impact of project managers, and I suppose, you know, recognizing the impact of project managers in our businesses, industries, and societies. Do you want to maybe just follow on that one?
Yeah, of course, can. Look, this is my belief, and this is probably going to sound a bit contentious, but hopefully you'll all get the sentiment, which is, I believe genuinely in today's modern world, there are only 2 types of organizations. Those that are changing and those that are actually dying. If you're not changing, you're stagnating, and gone are the days where you could just stand still and just hope it'll all be okay. The pace of change is so explosive. If you're not changing constantly, you've had it. And I think the unsung hero at the middle of that change for the last 20 years and some of the stuff we talked about before, and now change is pretty much 80% of business activity. It used to be, it's more BAU. Change dominates what we do in organizations, and at the heart of that are project managers. And this kind of ties back to the thread about what I think we need to be, which was focus on outcomes, help with complexity. And I think we should celebrate the fact that project managers, and I genuinely believe this from the bottom of my heart, in the next, I'm not going to say 10 years, the next 5 years will be known, I think, organizationally as executive co-pilots, because that's what we'll be. I genuinely believe that. I believe we'll no longer be the unsung heroes. We'll be the heroes, and we'll be the trusted partner of executives, because they won't have any choice, because we are now change organizations.
Yeah, I like that one, Darren. Executive co-pilots. So I'm going to change my business card on that basis, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's.
So look, that's
But
interesting.
Anthony, can I just come in? Like, given that we're all singing off the same hymn sheet, like, because we're all project managers and we all think we're great. How do we get other people to think that we're great? I suppose the only thing that we can do is to, from a network perspective, is to recognize the worth of each other. And, and probably that's probably one of the sentiments around International Project Management Day, is to give recognition to your project management peers or your project team, and actually just say, yeah, well done, a job well done, or here's a cup of Happy Project Management Day. Because it's probably something like, we're sitting here in the webinar, but it's probably something that back in your own field, that you're not shouting it out on a con call, the next work con call that you have. And it's probably something we should be doing.
I couldn't agree more, Jackie. I think we need to stop every now and again and give ourselves a bit of a pat on the back. It's a hard job. You're trying to manage lots of different variables across numerous work streams. And I think we should stop every now and again and say, well, look, we did a good job here. And we should give ourselves a pat on the back. Like in the construction industry, certainly on the client side, project management end of things, for me, the big thing is we've gone from an industry that had very little project managers to an industry that has there are very few projects without them. As I said at the start of this, our clients see the value, and I think that is one element of recognition that we are seeing back from the industry itself, and nearly across all the different sectors, be it private or public, be it commercial, be it retail, be it residential. And I think we should again, as an industry, recognize that and say, well done. We've a lot more to do, but look, we've come this far. We've educated ourselves. We're flexible. We can continue to change, and we will continue to develop our business and our project management strategies moving forward.
And if I can just throw in another thought, Anthony, to pick up on what Barry is saying, like, we have to look out at future project managers. And I actually think that project management is the sexiest profession you can go into. I'm not suggesting you do the search.
First time I've ever heard that, Pat.
Don't do the search on your work computer. But if you look for the definition of something to be sexy, it has to be exciting, appealing, and attractive. And like, what is more exciting than taking an idea and turning it into reality? What's more appealing in a person than someone who is optimistic and will overcome obstacles and drive to get where it comes? And obviously, when you just look at all of us on the call, you can see how attractive we all are. So I think we need to be doing more than we are in encouraging people. Like, how many of us got into project management by accident? I went to the bathroom one day. When I came back, I was told I'm managing a project. Right? That's pretty much how it went. So we need to do a lot more to push the value of the profession, what we offer, and the fact that it's an amazingly rewarding profession. Like
Yeah.
there's a reason we're addicted to it, and we need to try to spread that addiction to the wider population.
Sure. And I think that beautifully summarizes that final bullet point there. How do we promote the value of project management outside of our profession to make it attractive, to, I suppose, give people insights to, I suppose, how exciting the role is, and I suppose to, just promote that role and to bring others into it and to make people aware of that role. So I think you've very nicely summarized that. Jackie, any final thoughts before we just close out on the panelist discussion?
I'd love to hear from the audience of how they're celebrating it, or International Project Management Day, or how they give each other the pat on the back and recognise it. The one thing I will say in terms of what we can also do is that use the PMI network. We have mentoring programs, so there's a lot of knowledge. We're all about sharing knowledge. We're inclusive, not exclusive. If you notice, most of our webinars are not just for the PMI chapter members. We do make some of them available to the wider audience. And it's really a bit like Pat saying, and Darren and Barry is getting that message out there, that it is a fabulous profession to be in. It's ever changing. You will never get bored in it. And it's one of those that it's as you grow older, it's good to have grey hair in project management world, because you have the scars. But also, I think the big point for me, though, is that for the generation coming up, that learning is a two-way thing. So we can learn a lot from the youngsters coming in, and we need to probably unlearn some of our old style things. So it's all about that flexibility and adaptability. Like the phrase, the world's your oyster. As a project manager, it really is your oyster. The only one that's stopping you will be you yourself if you don't embrace and everything that's coming, all the changes, and just go for it.
Jackie, when I was doing my professional exams many years ago, there was an architect called Ona Cuffey doing a lecture in contract law, I think it was, and a series in contracts. And he came in and in front of all of us basically said, every day is a learning day. And that phrase has always stuck with me. Always go into a meeting expecting to learn something. Always ask questions. Always be willing to educate yourself. Doesn't matter what age you are or how long you've worked. Yeah. And I think if you could take, I think as a line, it's always stuck with me. And I always would share it with other people as well when I get the chance. I think that's exactly it.
Very true, Barry.
Super. Okay, so I think based on that, we'll move outside of the panel discussion into more of a questions and answer session. Now, I'm just looking at the chat there. Don't actually see any questions that have come up. So I might just open it up to the floor. If somebody wanted to come off mute and just if anybody has a particular question that they wanted to ask the panel, now is your opportunity.
There's a celebration from Claire Gately. She's attending the Irish Construction Industry Awards ceremony later on tonight, and her project has been shortlisted for the Innovation Award. So well done, Claire. Congrats.
Best of luck.
Well done.
Congrats.
There you go.
Well done.
Best of luck.
Good stuff.
Very good. Any questions for the panel?
I might jump in there, Anthony. Sorry, it's Brian Timmer here.
Yep.
Just a very quick question, and a very interesting conversation on topic. And it's stuff that's kind of fairly close to my heart. Just in terms of how things are evolving in the project management world, the world is moving at 1,000 miles an hour nearly every day. What do you see as the single most biggest challenge for the project management profession, and how do we position ourselves to overcome it?
The biggest challenge
for the profession. We have the advent of all these new technologies, the advent of ways of changes and ways of working. How we as project managers, what's the biggest challenge for us to try and overcome those?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is getting enough project managers. That's me personally, because if you looked at the stats that Pat was mentioning earlier on, 2.3 million project managers by 2030. So I think the challenge we have is getting the word out there. We're like the best kept secret in terms of, like we've spoken about people falling into the profession. We need to start educating people, younger people, about the possibility of going a route for this as a profession. Like if you take it, I don't know, go back to when we evolved 10, 20 years ago, you didn't go to your career guidance teacher and say, I want to be a project manager. Is I want to be a teacher, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a bank manager. So it's getting that out there. The challenge for the profession is getting that out there, that it's seen as a profession. Like we had a discussion the other day, Barry, it was you were saying that if you had the option of having a project manager, picking a project manager or an architect, you'd pick the architect to do the project manager. And it's how to actually, when you have the raw project management skills, how you develop the business acumen, because that's, in my opinion, that's the benefit, the added value that you can give. But I'm sure Pat will disagree with me.
Well, I guess I'd have a related view, which is I think we need to start educating people earlier. I think home economics is a subject people do at school so they can feed themselves. I think project management should be a subject people do at school so they know how to organize and structure and plan their time and activities. I know when I see kids going from school to college and going into chaotic lifestyle, if we can give them project management skills earlier, I think that'll really help the stream coming in. And I know that the Ireland chapter did work with the BT Young Scientist
That's right.
exhibition. Yeah. And it was amazing to see how we were helping the teachers. We were teaching the teachers how to manage projects, and these were skills they didn't have. And then they passed them on to the kids doing the Young Scientist program. So I think education is the big challenge, and trying to push that education as early as we can into the curriculum for everybody.
Thanks for that, Pat. I'm just
looking at a couple of questions there, Anthony.
There's a couple of questions that are coming in, and a couple of interesting questions. I'm not sure we'll try and get through one or two more. The question has come in, and I think we hear this one quite a bit. How would you say AI technologies will affect the PM industry, especially in IT? Is that one maybe, Pat, for you to give your perspective?
Sure. So massively. And it is, whereas I mentioned 10 years ago, every discussion was agile. Now every discussion is AI and how it will impact. If any of you aren't aware, the PMI brought out a really good short course. It's free for members, and you get 5 PDUs for doing it. Well worth doing. An intro to generative artificial intelligence runs through some of the tools and how you can use them. And the research is that AI helps, let's say, an underperforming project manager, it helps them get up to be on a par with the high-performing PMs. So that means if you're a high-performing PM and you're not using AI, you're losing your competitive advantage. So everybody should be using it. The worry I have is just the whole safety and reliability of it. And I'm really happy that PMI is taking a leadership position in grasping AI and trying to make sure that there's good governance standards, etc. So there'll be a lot more to come from PMI in the area of artificial intelligence.
Super. Denise has got a question there. I like the comment about elevating our profession up. What is your thoughts on having Chief Projects Officer at a C-suite level, giving the level of change across the organizations? Maybe Darren, is that something that you could?
I do think it exists. I think
it does exist, yeah.
I think most people don't call it Chief Products Officer. It's more Chief Transformation Officer, but they're essentially the same thing, right? It's somebody that's going to look after all our change and transformation activity, and I think it's becoming more and more prevalent.
Or the other thing it's called, Darren, is the Enterprise Project Management Office, where it's so it does the strategic programs and pipelines for the C-suite.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. But I think as an individual role, the chief transformation officer is in vogue. Definitely, it's getting more and more credibility.
Absolutely agree with that, Darren. Yeah. We'll just take one more question. Claire Gately has one question there. It might be one from your point of view, Jackie. Is there a requirement to differentiate or add specialities into PM qualifications, i.e. construction, finance, IT, pharma PMs, like medicine has a GP and specialist consultants?
So as a PM, I've worked in all those industries except for construction. And the one thing I will tell you from my personal experience is that I do have to have a couple of weeks ramp up to get to know the lingo and the nuances about each of the industry. But once that's there, like I'm not the SME, so once that's there, then I can manage it. Like as a consultant project manager, I'm more about managing the people. I don't get down into the detail of what the processes are, etc. There's subject matter experts for that. But I do think, and I'd be interested in the Barry or Darren to come in, I do think construction is a little bit different. And the only reason I know that is because I was doing a bit of lecturing down in UL, and most of the learners were from the construction industry, and it was a different type of beast. But I'd be interested, Darren or Barry, in your opinion.
Go for that, Barry.
Yeah, I can take that to start with. The construction industry really is evolving very quickly at the moment, and I referred to it in some of my comments earlier on. You have all the various components now of how you create a building. You've got the construction of it itself. You've got the operational end of it itself when you're running all the heating systems and the lighting and the water usage and all of that good stuff. Tenant engagement and understanding how all of that is, and all of them feed into ESG strategies and revenue streams and green leases. And our industry, project management in construction, is definitely and can definitely move into a space where you start to join the dots between all of those different aspects of what a building is. And I definitely, and so we would have had traditional construction PMs in our organization. In the last 3 to 4 years, we now have an environmental sustainability part of the business where we can offer service, where we understand carbon usage. And we're now beginning to see how those parts of the business talk to each other. And then you've got the ability to read data automatically, and you've got the ability to store data. So definitely in the construction industry at some stage, and we really are only starting the journey. And we talked about the complexities in the industry and how difficult it is to manage that. You will have specialities forming. One PM company or organization can definitely specialize in different aspects of it and be at the core of that, be at the center of it, the spider's web, where all of those dots have been joined.
Very good. Thanks, Barry, for that insight. Okay, I'm just looking at the clock here. We're about 5 to, so I think we're probably going to wrap it up now. I'm just going to summarize very briefly and just acknowledge the contributions from everybody. So, I mean, I think we've had some fascinating insights from both the evolving or evolution of project management over the last decade, over the last 25 years. I think we've known about some of them or aware of them, but I thought we got some really good specific industry insights that I certainly wouldn't have been aware of, and bringing these panelists together really was interesting from that point of view. I think we've kept hearing about the learning aspect, particularly when we talked about empowering and embracing. We kept hearing about that. We heard a lot about flexibility and adaptability from that perspective in learning. So again, I think it reinforced a lot of messages that PMI promote, and I think that's at the core of their beliefs in terms of this evolving world that we're in, is to keep learning. Because I think, to the point that Darren made, businesses changing or dying. So if you're not changing, then you're probably dying. So I thought it was a great point. I thought the collaboration from the panelist group was great. It was great to see the different perspectives and the comparisons of views. So from that point of view, thanks guys for that. And I suppose maybe Jackie, I'll just let you close out as Ireland Chapter PMI, just with your final comments.
Yeah, so just for Michael and anyone else, I've just put the link up there for the generative AI learning. It does say shop, but the price in it is 0. will really encourage you to do it, because it will get you on the road to sort of learning and embracing. So final comments would be happy Project Management Day to everybody. Do clap each other on the back. Do even acknowledge it in the afternoon if you're having a conversation with your colleagues, or if you have a meeting. Start it off by saying Happy International Project Management Day and well done to all the project managers. So that's it from me. And just don't forget, our AGM is on the 23rd of November. Would love to virtually see everyone at that. And back to you, Anthony. And thanks a million for all your work in the background getting this together. Anthony's our director of events, guys, if you don't know it, and he does the swan, he does all the running around in the background, and it just seamlessly happens on the day. So thank you, Anthony.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thanks to the panelists again for your contributions. Thanks to the audience, and I hope everybody got some decent learnings out of this. I definitely did. So thanks again, guys. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Anthony.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Bye. Bye.